We're going to do our demonstration on how to create filigree using sterling silver wire. So there's a couple tools that you need to start. You need a set of flat nose pliers, a set of round nose pliers, metal snips, tweezers, and a file. We're also going to be using a different type of solder today, so we'll be explaining that as we get into the soldering process. First thing you need to do is you need to come up with a filigree design. So you're going to need to do a variety of sketches for your filigree piece, a minimum of 3 sketches for this assignment. So on these sketches, you want to be aware of the size of the filigree piece that you're going to be making. You're going to have a set of frames or walls, and then the interior is going to be filled with a set of different sized wire that is going to be manipulated in a different way with the tweezers and also with the pliers mainly. There are mainly 4 different types of filigree designs for your interior. Your frame can be any design that you like. But your interior, there's a hook designs where the top's swirled and brought down. There's a bean design where the 2 ends are swirled and brought together, kind of looking like a kidney bean. You can also do this in the reverse and have the swirls going to the outside. There's the S, which just looks like an S with some curves, and then the swirl. So when you're making all these different patterns, you can then fill them to the interior of your filigree piece. So once you decide on your frame, then you'll be able to take those different patterns and then just fill them in order to make an interesting design. Typically in filigree, radial designs as well as symmetrical designs tend to be the most popular, so it might be a way that you want to think about that when you're sketching and using your graph paper. And this is the design I'm going to be working with today. So I'm going to have 2 walls. I'm going to have a wall around the outside. I'm going to have a wall around the inside. I'm going to leave this area in the center open as a piece of negative space. In that negative space area, I could also add a bead if I would like to. I could add a cabochon. Just about anything could hang from this negative space area. You can see the inside of my filigree has now been filled up with a variety of hooks as well as beans and swirls on the inside. So in order to get started, you're going to have 3 different sizes and different types of wire. Your first piece of wire is going to be a squared 18 gauge wire. This square piece of 18 gauge wire is sterling silver, and this is what you're going to be creating your frame out of. You're all going to be getting your lengths that you will need. And what you're going to do with your wire is you're going to be using your sketch as a roadmap, and you're going to be taking your wire and you're going to be bending it around the outside of your design in order to get the shape or the size that you would need. So once you bend it around and you figure out the shape and the size that you're going to need, then you're going to bring the 2 ends together. Just like you're making a ring band, you need to force the 2 ends together, and if there's a very small little space here, you're going to need to file these flat to make sure that they're going to fit evenly. So you need to take your file and file the 2 ends because you want them to butt up perfectly. Your frame is very important because it's where everything else is going to be filled in. So once your pieces are filed flat, you need to force them together and you're going to hold them down. You want this to be the shape you would like it to be. So you can use your fingers. Sterling is very soft, so it's very easy to manipulate and very easy to bend. But if you need to use your pliers, you can. So once you get the shape that you would like, then you can then go ahead and proceed, and I want you to stick everything down to a piece of tape. The reason why I'm having you stick everything down to a piece of tape is you're going to have a variety of little pieces and you don't want them to go flying. So now I can go ahead and I can start to fill my inside. Since I already have my pattern completely done and finished over here, I'll show you the soldering, but I just want to show you how to work with the needle nose pliers and how to work with the round pliers appropriately. The next size piece, this is going to be a filler piece. This will go on the inside. This is 18 gauge round wire. So when you're filling in your pieces, I say I would like to make the hook shape. I would then grab the tip of my wire with my round nose pliers, and I'm just going to manipulate the wire around the plier. My pliers really don't move too much. The wire tends to move more. So I can grab the ends, I can twist it. The closer you get to the end of your wire, the tighter the loop's going to be. And then you can see I have a hook shape here that I could then go and measure to the interior and cut to the appropriate size. When you're filling in filigree, you need to make sure that your pieces of wire are going to be touching the outside and also another section. So you don't just want it free hanging. So it needs to touch 2 parts of your wall or your interior. So as you can see in the one that's been completed already, all of my pieces are touching either my wall or my interior wall, or they're all touching at least 2 parts to be soldered onto. Wire is very thin in areas, and it's also really flexible, so you need to have that sturdiness of it being soldered to 2 parts of your filigree piece. So this is how you create a hook. So creating this hook, I can then move, if I wanted to make an S shape, I can then just move it down and wrap the end of my wire around my pliers here. Create an S shape, just twist it. Snip off your end, and then you have a different S shape. You can make these into swirls, and you just need to maneuver your pliers and maneuver your wire around your pliers. So I can bring this up into a swirl if I needed to. If anything gets a little crooked, just take your flat nose pliers, put it in the throat of the flat nose pliers, and just crush it, and it's going to flatten everything off. So whatever shapes that you need to make with your wire, you can. So this is going to be your filler, your round wire. And then I also have a thinner decorative wire here, and you can see there's ridges on the sides. It's also squared off. So this is a really great filler for any type of decorative designs that you would like to put in to your filigree design. So from my sketch, I kind of altered it slightly as I was working, because you want to fill in most of your filigree here. You want to fill in your walls. You want it to be very full. You don't want to leave a lot of negative space. So with this here, I'm ready to go ahead and to begin soldering now that I have all of my swirls, my beans, and then also just a few lines with this decorative wire have been added in. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. To get started, you want to solder your frame first. That's the first step. You're going to solder your frame together, then you're going to fill in with your 18 gauge round wire, and then finally, lastly, you'll fill in with your thinner decorative wire. So pardon me as I move the camera over to the soldering station here. Boop. You want to make sure that you're soldering on a flat block. I'm going to be using a piece of kiln shelf today. So this kiln shelf is very flat. It's unlike the honeycomb, so things aren't going to fall through, and it's unlike our fire brick that has a lot of ridges in it. You can also use a carbon block